Hi everyone, it's Julianne here for Miss Ink Stamps and welcome back. Today I'm combining two of my favorite things, and that's gnomes and of course coffee, in order to create this Valentine's Day card using the Coffee Gnome stamp set. I'm going to start out my card today by first stamping both of the gnome images that are included in the Coffee Gnome stamp set, and I'm going to be stamping both of those onto a sheet of expressive blending cardstock using some Memento Tuxedo black ink. Once I have both of those stamped out and I have a nice solid black outline, I'm then going to start working on my Copic coloring. Now, since this is a Valentine's Day inspired card, I'm going to be coloring in majority of both of my images in this one red color combination, and that combination is R59, R29, R27, and finally R24. Since I am using the same colors for both images, I'm just going to be showing you here how I colored in the hat, and then I'm going to be doing the rest of my coloring off camera. So to start out, I'm going to be coming in with my darkest shade, which is R59, and I'm going to be adding that dark color to the areas of the hat where I think there would naturally be a shadow. Then I'll come in with my two medium shades, first being R29, and then I'll be coming in with R27, and I'm going to be extending those two colors in towards the center of the hat. And then finally, I'll be coming in with my lightest color, which is R24, and that's going to blend each one of those colors in together. Once I was done with all of my coloring, off camera I did stamp and heat emboss a coffee background stamp onto some craft colored cardstock, and I ran that cardstock through my die cutting machine using a heart-shaped die cut. Now to add some dimension to that die cut, I'm going to be pulling out my Waffle Flower Media Mat, and I'm going to be doing some ink blending using some distressed inks in the colors Vintage Photo and Gathered Twigs. I'm going to start out by adding the Vintage Photo around the edges of my heart first, and I'm going to be blending that color in towards the center of my die cut. And then in order to darken those edges even more, I'm then going to be coming in with Gathered Twigs. Now I knew that I wanted to have the heart be my main focal point on my card, and then have the two gnomes in the middle of that heart. But I wanted to add something else so that my card wasn't so plain. So here I took some pattern paper that I thought really matched my coloring, and I trimmed those pattern papers down into little strips. And I'm going to be adhering each one of those strips down to my background panel using some liquid adhesive. Now once I had them all laid out, I really didn't want to mess that placement up, so I did just adhere some washi tape behind those pattern paper strips. And once I decide on the placement, I'll then just adhere each one of those strips down, and then I'll adhere the heart die cut over those strips so that the strips appear on both sides of that heart. And then using my paper trimmer, I'm just going to trim off that little bit of excess from the heart die cut that's hanging off the side of my card. Next, I'm going to work on adding in my sentiments, and I'm even going to be adding in a sentiment on the inside of my card, which I am pretty proud of myself for doing that because I always seem to forget to do this. So I'm going to be using a coffee sentiment that I had in my crafty stash, and I'm going to be stamping that large coffee sentiment onto the inside of my card. And for that, I'm going to be using some Pink Fresh Studio inks, and I'm going to be using the colored Gathered Twigs. And I'm just going to stamp that image a few times in order to get a really nice solid impression, since this is such a large sentiment and I haven't used this stamp set before. Once I get that all stamped out, I will be adding an additional smaller sentiment underneath that large sentiment, along with some of the coffee beans from the Beautiful stamp set. And I'm going to be stamping those coffee beans in the color Dough, and that ink color is also from Pink Fresh Studios. I'm now going to start working on assembling the last few things onto my card, and I'm going to start out by adhering the boy gnome down to my heart die cut. And I'm just going to be adhering him straight down onto my card using some liquid adhesive. Now to add some dimension to my card, I am going to be adhering the girl gnome just slightly over the boy gnome using some foam adhesive. Now for an additional sentiment on the outside of my card, I have stamped and white heat embossed a sentiment onto some black colored cardstock, and now I'm just going to be adhering that down to the bottom right hand part of my card. Once I get that all adhered, my sentiment is now going to read, "I love you more than coffee, but please don't make me prove it." And then finally, to finish off my card, I am going to be scattering a few gold as well as some red sequins throughout my card. And once I have each one of those adhered, That's going to complete my Valentine's Day card using the Coffee Gnome stamp set. I hope that you've all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up down below, as well as subscribe for even more card making ideas. If you're interested in any of the supplies I used today, I will have all of those listed and linked down below in the description box. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time, and happy crafting!